Run, river, run, run through the hills. Run, river, run to the sea. Run, river, run to your place beneath the sea.
This is Jan Lewis. Welcome to my guest. Today we have, representing PediPals, over at the Notre Dame Hospice in Worcester, we have Linda McGarvey. Linda's over here on my far right. She's a volunteer assistant. And right here is Patty Thibeault. Thibeault. You're the Director of Marketing. And PediPals, we have the Director of Child Life at UMass on the program. And that's where I first heard about PediPals. And I swear I found your card somewhere. We still don't know where, but I found it. This is fascinating. You're going to see some of these downstairs as you come into the building about the pediatric palliative care. I'm just going to take it away. Go ahead. Tell us what it's about.
Well, thanks for having us. Mm-hmm. Really, we're so happy to be here. And I thought I would just tell you a little bit about Notre Dame Healthcare, because a lot of times people are really surprised to hear PediPals and then tie it into Notre Dame Healthcare. We're pretty well known in the city of Worcester for our campus. So Notre Dame Healthcare, we're actually 25 years, and we're celebrating 25 years this year of a continuum of care. So we are more than just a place where it's a philosophy of care that Notre Dame Healthcare brings out to the community. But we do have a campus on Plantation Street in Worcester.
Yep, I know it well.
And that's what most people know from us.
It's a beautiful entrance.
It's absolutely beautiful. The Sisters of Notre Dame de Mure, that was, their home. And they had this vision, and they really saw that there was a need for what we all talk about now, aging in place or staying in place. And so our long-term care facility was born from that need. Yeah. It was, necessity. Sure. And then they redid where the sisters were convalescing, which is the large brick building people see sometimes from the main road. Yeah. And that is now our assisted living facility. So we are a place. Yeah. But more than that, as part of that continuum, there was a need, especially, for our mission was to be out in the community and really to help people of all colors, creeds, ethnic backgrounds, orientation, and we just wanted to, as an organization, help those that needed the help the most. Yeah. And so in doing that, we also have an education center, a bridge center, that educates many students in the Worcester area and the surrounding area. We have an area where they can come for classes to learn English. They can get there. It's called HiSET now. It used to be called GED.
Yeah. And what's it called now?
It's called HiSET.
HiSET?
Yeah. Yep. Capital H, small I believe, and then an SET. So HiSET.
So GED is a thing of the past.
Well, yeah, it's just new wording, but it's the same. Okay. Principally, it's the same thing.
Got to remember that.
And then we also do citizenship programs, and our sisters actually tutor a lot of those students to help them when they're going to be preparing for those tests.
She means the nuns, if you're not a Catholic woman. Okay, not everybody.
So we are a Catholic healthcare organization.
But everyone's welcome.
Which all denominations and all ethnicities and all backgrounds, and we work with the refugee population in that ed center quite a bit to work with that citizenship. But we also bring, for the people that work with our organization, it's continuing education for them, so that they are going to better themselves and stay within our continuum, which is what our goal is.
Patty, were you the originator of? We're going to talk with Linda in a minute, but Patty, did you originate the PediPals?
So Notre Dame Hospice is part of our at-home division, and so that's where the at-home division really goes out and does all these community projects. So we started a hospice 10 years ago, and then about 6 years ago, in 2012 to be exact, this PediPals is what we call it, started up. But there's actually a program in the state of Massachusetts. We're one of only 3 states that have this program, and it's state funded. It started as a pilot, and it takes care of those kids out there who have life-limiting illness. Yeah. And it really, what is so wonderful about the state of Massachusetts and about, kind of all the hospitals, like you mentioned, UMass, Children's Dana-Farber, Mass General, like all these really well-known worldwide. They're
the
known.
Children's Hospital in Boston. Oh my God,
The people come from all over the world to
Ronald
access
McDonald
that
House.
healthcare. Absolutely. So what happens is, like, all these kids, go there to seek this treatment, or families come for those children to seek treatment. So they're getting the best that is out there. They're being provided with lots of medical interventions, a lot of care. But however, in the system, best intentions aren't always the things that are best practice.
Right.
So there's a big void there for a lot of the emotional side that families go through.
the children.
The work for the siblings, what the parents are dealing with, the coping mechanisms. So we have a team of social workers, child life specialists, music therapists.
And you have your volunteer, Linda.
Massage. And then now, so what Linda will do is talk about how that team, it's an important team. However, our program is expanding. We currently have 110 children on that program, just
Are they
in
living
the Central
there?
Mass.
They're in there.
So they live at home. They're all in their homes all over
So
Central Massachusetts.
you actually go there. Okay.
We go
Yeah,
there.
part of the
So
home.
they're in towns all
Okay.
over Central Mass.
Yeah.
We currently we got some additional funding from the state of Massachusetts, which is wonderful
Yeah.
for the first time ever.
Can see, yeah.
Because we had 70 kids on the waiting list just
Yeah.
in Central Mass and the Merrimack Valley area. We're going to be able to take about 40 more of those kids off the list. So now we're up to, if you do the math, we're in the 140s to the 150s. That's a lot of work to be done.
Sure.
And that's why we lean so heavily on volunteers.
Take
which
it away,
is
my
what
friend.
Linda's going to take
Well,
away as my
go ahead.
volunteer
Volunteers.
coordinator.
Linda
They're really important.
McGarvey, you are a volunteer over there, and Linda, I mean, God, you actually go into the homes with the children who are in hospice care.
Yeah, I think that scares people off a little bit when they hear, going into a situation where there is an ill child. A lot of people, we have about 40 volunteers right now that do hospice and veterans and all of that. And when we mention PediPals going to the home where there's a sick child, I think people get a little bit nervous about that. But the interesting thing is that these families really need somebody to spend time with the siblings as well. So you can just imagine a family that on a day-to-day basis is dealing with this challenge with the sick child that needs a lot of attention. And the siblings, well, they might not get as much attention.
Exactly.
Just because there isn't enough time in the day.
Yeah.
So the volunteer is really critical because the volunteer can go in and spend time maybe with the sick child, reading, watching movies, whatever is appropriate for that child, or they might be spending time with the siblings.
Yeah.
So they might play games with them, watch TV, play sports, help them with their homework, maybe make cookies. But these are people that really need our help. And so I'm hoping that, there are some people out there that are thinking, I'd love to do something as a volunteer. What can I do that would be really meaningful? This would be so
How long have you
meaningful.
been doing this, Linda?
I was a volunteer for 5 years, a hospice volunteer, and now I actually work for Notre Dame.
Yep.
I work with Patty and the team. And so my job is really to recruit the volunteers
Yeah.
and, to help.
How can they do that? Tell them how they can do that. First of all, can they get a hold of both of you? Tell the audience how they
Well,
can.
you can go to our website, NotreDameHealthcare.org, and just click on, I think, it says
Support
volunteers
us.
right there.
Yeah.
Yep, so you'd be able to get to us that way, or you can call over at Notre Dame. You can call 508-852-5505 and just say you're interested in volunteering. And we will be happy to give you all the information and application. And the other thing that's important, I think, for people to know is we have extensive training. So we're not
Yes.
really just going to take you in, send
Yeah,
you out.
that's
I cannot
important.
picture just walking right into it.
Right, so
Yeah.
there'll be
Right.
lots of training before you actually are matched up with a family.
Do you do the training, Linda?
No, I don't do the training, but we have a volunteer coordinator that does the training.
Yeah.
And other people in the organization help and participate in the training as well. And we have in-service during the year so that when things change and they need to know new things, they get that support.
It's a good way to figure out when you go in for your training, right? To figure out, and it's not, it's not horrible if it's not for you. It's a
Right.
good way to
And
figure
there
it
are
out.
levels.
Yeah,
So
right.
volunteers always think bedside
Mhm.
if they're hearing the word hospice or they're hearing the anything to do with healthcare. But like she said, this could be a mentor, like a big brother, big sister type
Yeah,
of
you
a
could be-
role for
exactly,
somebody where
exactly.
you're more going out to shoot a basketball out in the driveway with one of the kids, or help with, like she said, help with homework. So there's different levels. So your comfort level, that's taken into consideration.
You know, I didn't think about, you don't think about the sibling as
The
much.
siblings.
We need
well,
to,
that's
though.
right. They're getting
And
left
again,
out.
the system, there's lots and lots of people paying attention to
Well, yeah.
the child that's got the illness,
Yeah.
you know, obviously.
And does the
but-
sibling know that their sibling may not live that long?
Well, that's what our team, we have professional social workers and child life specialists that work on those conversations, on that intense part of it.
Yeah.
So again, our volunteers, we're not asking them to do that heavy kind of work and put them out of something that's, you know, over what they're capable of doing.
Sure.
So we're looking more for just that light weight, because there is so much weight, there is so much gravity to what's going on, that wouldn't it, you know, just even go out and get a cone of ice cream is such a treat
Yeah.
for a
And
child.
also, it's like a respite period for the parent.
Exactly.
It-
I was just going to
absolutely.
say, think about mom. Maybe
Yeah.
she'd like to jump in the shower.
Yeah.
You know, so you spend time with the children, and that gives her an opportunity. It's like such a gift.
How often can a hospice volunteer do it? Go and visit?
Most of the volunteers go, I think, on an average about once a week to visit with their patients, and we just work with your schedule. So it's whatever you can give.
How many
because,
hours do you think, generally?
It depends. Again, an hour.
I think that's what's so
an
great about
hour
our organization is
Yeah.
that a lot of organizations, if you're going to volunteer, there's very specific guidelines about how much you have to volunteer and when and all.
We don't have that.
We really don't do that.
No.
We really look to find out
What's comfortable?
where are
Yeah.
you at? We meet
Yeah.
you where you are, and
Sometimes volunteers will spend longer than an hour with a patient.
Yeah.
Or less, and it depends on the situation. Maybe the patient's tired that day, or you know, they don't need someone to stay that long. But you know, the volunteers to us are just priceless because
They really
they are
are.
giving the gift of their time,
Yeah.
and that is a priceless gift.
Are you hooked in with all the local hospitals? So the hospitals, like especially like UMass, which
Yes.
they know
Yes.
you're there and they can refer the
Yes.
parents and all.
yes.
Oh.
That's why there's a waiting list, and we feel like that waiting list possibly could be bigger. I think when they know there's a waiting list, we maybe stop hearing, you know, maybe they don't refer as often. But now, and again, it is part of our hospice, but this is palliative work that we're doing with these kids, because life-limiting illnesses aren't necessarily the acute. There are some acute situations, but these aren't always. You know when you think about illnesses and children, you think sometimes about some of the things you see on these acute diseases that are very invasive and really tough. And there are some children like that on our program, but there are some very high functioning children that go to school. But there's genetic diseases that are part of this program. It's not just the type of diseases that come to mind. So it can be things where, you know, we've got kids that are in the school system and they do have homework, so that the patient themselves may have homework to do.
Sure.
So again, we try to meet the volunteer where they are.
Where they are. We're talking with Linda McGarvey, and Linda is a volunteer assistant. I keep wanting to look at that camera at PediPals in Worcester at Notre Dame Hospice, and Patty Thibeault.
Thibeault, yes.
You're the director of marketing at PediPals. How long have you known each other?
Well, she's
Since
been
we-
volunteering for,
5 years.
and here's a good thing to about the volunteers to mention is Linda helped in so many ways. Yes, she saw patients, but she would come into the office. She'd help me with projects that I had, some office things that we would work on, or she'd help with the phones. I mean, so again, volunteering isn't always like one certain fit.
Yeah.
And Linda she just wanted to help. She just wanted to be a part of the organization. And
Linda, did you go through,
know?
a lot of volunteers may have gone through a situation in their family where they had maybe a family member in hospice or passed
Right.
away?
My mother was in hospice.
I wonder.
Okay,
if-
so
yeah.
about 5 years ago, I said to my sister, you know, I really like to volunteer. And she said, well, why don't you call hospice?
Yeah.
Because they're always looking for people. That's actually how I ended up coming
Yeah.
to Notre Dame. And I think I just went online and Notre Dame came up and I called, and that's how it all started for me. But it really is a calling, I think. And the one thing that I've learned from volunteering is that usually when you leave that patient, you leave feeling like you received more than you
do.
gave.
Yeah,
It was
definitely.
always like that for me with every single patient. And I think anybody that's thinking about volunteering, either in hospice or with the PediPals, we really are in need of PediPal volunteers now because our program is.
Well, right beside you, Paul, can
getting
you
big.
zero in on there? They brought a great poster here. Love this. Who designed your poster? Your huge poster.
Oh,
Yeah, Patty,
we
did you
did.
do that?
You did? Now, who's Deborah
probably-
Corrales?
So that
Okay.
she is the volunteer coordinator. Deb Corrales is the volunteer coordinator.
508-852-5505. Volunteer coordinator. Contact Deborah Corrales, right?
Yes.
Okay. Volunteers needed. Notre Dame PediPals provides support to children with life-limiting illnesses and their families. We're looking for enthusiastic and reliable volunteers. This is over at in Worcester, not far from UMass Medical.
We're almost across the street from the
Yeah.
medical school.
Yeah.
And we're the one with the long driveway and the big brick building.
Yeah.
Our offices are actually there.
Yeah.
Our offices are actually underneath
That's the
in
one
the
with
back.
a beautiful thing
Right.
right in the.
It's so pretty. The
It is pretty.
gazebo and
Well, there's like a brick. Is there a brick at the entrance, like a
yes,
square?
there is with
Okay.
our
with a sign.
with the sign.
Okay.
Yeah.
I never knew that.
So that's why and that's why people it's difficult when I go out into the community because in Worcester it's such a long known history of that particular place that they still think of it as only that. So to know about the PediPals program, I tell people all the time. The hospitals in Boston tell people from all over the world when they're traveling here to get help to go live in central Massachusetts because that's the best program. I mean, we have the largest program in the whole state. We started with 5 kids.
That amazes me.
you know,
You'd think it would be
back in-
Boston, wouldn't you?
Right? Well, and we just it started. We hoped to have 5 to 10 kids. We hope to be successful,
Yeah.
and then it just
blossomed.
It just really blossomed, and it's a lot of hard work that does that. It doesn't just happen.
It must
And
be
then,
hard to tell parents that we haven't. There's a waiting list.
A waiting list. That tells you.
Well, and
how
that's
many
why
people
we've
are in
lobbied
need.
the state, and the
Yeah.
state has given us more funding to work on that.
Yeah.
So and so the program is funded through the state, and like I said, Massachusetts is a state that has made it possible for children to seek this kind of support, which isn't everywhere, and that's why when
No.
people do come in, Boston does have some of the best hospitals,
Yes.
but they tell people to come live in Central Mass to get us.
Patty,
and,
did you have a loss in your family?
my dad was on hospice. Yeah,
okay.
I wish it had been sooner rather than later. But
Yeah.
I mean, but we had we had a nurse who was just, just like the stories I hear from our patients.
Yeah.
We just had a great. She was like one of the sisters. She became one of us.
So you both experienced. See,
I actually left my career.
What were you doing?
Went back to school so I could get into healthcare, so I could
What were you
come.
doing?
I was a marketer, but it was for a for-profit. It wasn't. There wasn't anything meaningful behind it. It was a career.
Deborah, what were you doing before you became?
I worked in
involved?
publishing for 25 years.
Look
Yeah.
at this. That just shows you that you can be from any working background and be a volunteer in hospice. And it's also they do the hospice obviously for adults as well. But PediPals is focused definitely. You'll see this pamphlet downstairs at the Upton Town Library and the huge bulletin boards down there. Who drew the little picture? One of the kids?
Oh,
Or was
yes.
it one of you?
No, it was. It was one of our kids.
But-
Our Christmas card last year was drawn by one of our kids
Oh,
too. So we
that's
often
great.
use
Oh.
their input on a lot of what we do.
Yeah, look at the rainbow and all this. Oh,
We
yeah.
have Halloween parties for them. Volunteers could be somebody that literally helps us for just the parties.
The event together.
Just the event. We have Halloween. We try to do a spring festival.
Do you get dressed up for Halloween?
Why not?
I know, yeah, that's cool.
Yeah, there was a Jungle Book theme this
Yeah.
year, but like things like that. So again, I'm putting that out there to say it's that's considered volunteering.
Yeah.
Even if it's
Yeah.
You
So
know?
let's say a family's over at the UMass, and they're at the Child Life Center there, and they have a child that would really benefit by PediPals. Right now, would they have a bit of a wait? Or no?
Actually, that would depend. So we are working on getting those
The grant,
those
yeah.
kids off the waiting list. And quite honestly, if there is somebody who's in an acute situation,
Yeah.
room is made
Yes.
to the best of our ability. I mean,
Yeah.
there's also, again, and this is why they're connected to a hospice and why they're connected. Why we as Notre Dame Healthcare has been successful. The fact that we are a Catholic healthcare organization, and again, that's not the denomination. It's more the it comes from a place of purpose.
Mhm.
It comes from a philosophy of care.
But everyone's welcome.
And so it's more about taking care of those who need you to take care of them,
Right.
regardless.
Yeah.
And so if somebody needs us and there is something going on, we find a way.
Exactly.
We find a way.
Linda, what would you say being on this is the hardest part for a volunteer? To buck up and just get through and just to how do you separate your mind from your heart? How do you do that?
It's hard to do. I mean, I think, your emotions are going to play into it because you do become an integral part of
You're
the
attached.
family, the person, the patient. But it really is such a gratifying thing to do.
Don't you see a lot of joy? Don't you find you see more joy
Absolutely.
than sadness?
Yeah.
Absolutely. And also, the volunteers visit is something a little bit different during the week. I mean, days, how they can become kind of routine when you're in a situation like that. And then the volunteer comes in and they share a story, they talk, they do something different.
Yeah.
It really can bring so much joy to that patient.
It brings the outside world to
Exactly.
the patient. Something different.
You share
That's
stories
great. That's
and
great.
yeah, but you do become attached. You can't help it. So it's difficult at times, because you don't really want to see someone in that situation. But
Tell me again tell everybody how they can get a hold of you.
well, you can go to our website, which is www.notredamehealthcare.org, or you can call us at, 508-852-5505, and just say you're interested in volunteering. And we would love to hear from you. And the other thing to keep in mind, too, Jan, is that because we have such a wide area where we have patients, Central Mass and Merrimack Valley, that we try to match up the volunteers.
Merrimack Valley.
So it isn't
Yes.
everybody going to Worcester.
Oh.
And we have grown to accept now.
Right.
We have the entire Lowell, Merrimack.
So
that
that's
whole
important to
area.
know because, maybe your viewers that are watching don't live anywhere near Worcester, so
Yeah.
they don't think that this would
Yeah.
work out for them.
Definitely.
But yes, we try
Every
to.
town, Upton.
Yeah.
We have people in Upton. There are people in Grafton. There are
That,
Marlboro.
we need volunteers.
Northborough, Westboro, Southboro.
So
Yeah, you've
So
got
you
so
figure
many-
140 kids. They're spread out. They're not
Right.
all living in a place.
Are they allowed to go out, let's say, to an event?
Oh, we buy movie tickets for them all
You
the
take
time. When
them out.
people donate, they'll donate movie tickets
And they
so the
can-
families can go out.
Yeah.
We've had movie night.
I think someone went to the
And,
Patriots game one
Somebody went to the
time.
Patriots
Somebody got
game.
tickets
So
to the
again,
Patriots
it's
game.
not always those acute, really heavy situations.
Sure.
It's actually there are a lot of very normal families, and from the outside, you think,
They just
wow,
need
they're
that
normal.
extra
It's just that. There's a lot going on,
Yeah.
and maybe mom is more of a caregiver than a mom a lot of days.
Yeah.
And who hasn't dealt with the healthcare system? Just making phone calls, how much time that can take away from, if you've got 3-4 kids and you're trying to juggle. We all know it's hard to juggle when things are going good. So can you imagine if
Yeah.
you're trying to deal with
Yeah.
insurance companies and health and specialists and all of that? So there's a time crunch, but like I said, from the outside.
Sure.
They're going to soccer games. They're
How about the holidays now? I know, obviously, Christmas, the Christian. Do you do Hanukkah as well as some of the other ones too? If you
whatever there,
Whatever they
we
want.
we also provide. We have, and that's another thing too. We look for support in those other communities because we have volunteers that will just go because they're of the same nationality. We have a lot of people from other countries that have come here
That's
for
great.
medical care.
Yeah.
And there is a completely different perspective, and there's a different. We want to honor
their culture.
their
That's
culture.
very important. Volunteers, if you're from a different culture, if you're
It's
from outside
very
of America,
important.
whatever,
Or-
please think that you're welcome as a
Well,
volunteer.
and can you imagine the isolation? You're very isolated in that, and sometimes it's you're feeling that isolation socially. So again, you're getting the medical care, you're getting attention, but socially, you may feel very isolated.
I can
Speaking
imagine.
of
Wouldn't
the
it be
language
nice?
can be very beneficial.
Wouldn't it be
Yeah.
nice?
Yes.
Yeah, to
Do
have someone
we-
who gets it.
If a volunteer would have to be able to speak the language of that particular family, or did most of them speak English?
We have both. Honestly, we
right,
have both. We
right.
figured there's so many. Again, going back to those numbers, there's plenty to pick from when you have 140 families. There's work to be done in every level of every ethnic background, of every language, of every capacity. It's
And there's no age limit here. It could
Right,
be.
I was just going to mention to you too that
Yeah,
funny you should bring that
I'm
up.
psychic.
Because we have high school students that volunteer, we
Yeah.
have college students, and it's great for people that are studying childhood education or nursing or whatever to be able to have these experiences. But we do have all ages of volunteers. In fact, we have a woman who's 94. Who's one of
Oh,
our volunteers.
really?
Yes, we do.
What's the youngest?
High school.
I think 17.
Oh.
We have someone
Yeah.
coming in
How
the
about med,
office right
how
now.
about right across the street is the med school? Do you have, is that part of their curriculum? Do they have, they need to?
So yeah, and we do internships.
Yeah.
So because we're nonprofit, we really, I don't know what we would do if we didn't have these relationships with internships.
Yeah.
So yeah, college age is really nice, especially if that's their.
Yeah.
They learn a lot.
You
know,
take
if
a
that's
medical
what they're-
student who graduates over there at the medical school and gets their MD, and then they begin to do the 3 or 4 years of residency, and they really have a pretty good idea by then what they want to focus on. If it's pediatrics, as well as for adults, but pediatrics, what a fantastic place
Right.
to give of your time. I think I meet a lot of residents over there. Very often a resident will come in before you're attending, but that's the drill. Sometimes you get a cute medical student who will come and say, do you mind if the med student comes in? I would, no. I mean, good Lord, in a few years they may be waiting on us, right? Yes, bring them on,
What's
what's
would
your,
love to hear from anybody
Yeah,
that really
anybody.
would like to look
tell
into
us
this.
again. We got about 2 minutes
Oh,
left. How they can
boy.
reach
Well,
you?
make sure you call us if you want to volunteer, 508-852-5505, or go online, NotreDameHealthcare.org, and just get in touch with us and let us know you're interested in volunteering, because we really do need your help.
Yeah,
And it's just a
yes.
wonderful
Yeah.
and gratifying experience. I think if you try it, you'll find out that there's so much more to it than maybe from the outside looking in.
Yeah. It's not just bedside. If
it's
you're
a
if that,
journey.
Yeah, no,
Yeah.
and there's we laugh like these kids. I can't even tell you how many times I've rolled around on the ground, playing and
Yeah.
color patch, with the young ones and with the older ones. They actually these kids have done some really neat things. Have met some people. We had a child met Barack Obama, and he brought us pictures, and we get to talk. And
Yeah.
so there's
there's a lot of play
it's
involved
pretty
too,
neat.
which can bring it up to a happier time.
Exactly.
Very
It's
much so, actually.
positive,
They have
yeah.
a lot of fun. Our child life specialists, our
Yeah.
our music therapist goes in, and
Yeah.
there's a lot of fun to be had.
Thank you so much. We'll have you back.
Thank
This
you
isn't
so
the end of the
much
world.
for
You
having
definitely
us.
could come back on. This is really great. Again, if you
Thank
want to
you.
volunteer for PediPals over at Notre Dame Hospice in Worcester, we've been speaking with Linda McGarvey. She's a volunteer assistant, and Patty Thibeault, right, director of marketing. They'll tell you where it's at, and if you want to go over and have the training, you don't have to work bedside. You can certainly be like a playmate. You can do something happy. You can read. You find out where your niche is, and they'll go with your niche, right?
Exactly.
Whatever you feel comfortable with. If you're not particularly comfortable with a lot of the medical aspect, don't worry about it.
Right.
They'll take care of, make sure that you're matched very, very well. So whatever custom, whatever religion, feel free. And we'll see you next time and be my guest.